Friends, we are at the top of the hour. Welcome. It's Dr. Marcia McFee in the Worship Design Studio, and I'm so glad to spend this time with you talking about the Advent Christmas season coming up. I know it's September, my friends, but as we've been waiting to come on, we have had Christmas music playing because it's time for those of us who design worship to get in the mood to think about and plan how we will present this life-giving message of God's inbreaking into the world. So the first C, I have 3 C's for you, is context. What will be inspiring for this year for this community? That is your biggest job, because there are many, many resources that you can draw on, but your job, and the one I can't do for you, is to discern what would be the most poignant for your community this year. So let me just say that for myself, when I create things in the Worship Design Studio, because I'm not creating for one specific congregation, I'm trying to look at sort of the global scene and what's happening on the global scene in a broader context. And so this year, I went with Silent Night, one of the most beloved hymns of the Advent Christmas season, is turning 200 this year. 200 years ago, that beautiful song was created on the spur of the moment, last minute, for a Christmas Eve service when the organ had quit. The organ was broken and they needed to write a song that they could use for guitar. And that was written in the spur of the moment, and it has spread since then across the world and has become a most beloved hymn. Now, one of the most famous stories attached to that is the one of just a little over 100 years ago in World War I, the occurrence of the Christmas truce and the story of the British and German soldiers on the front line that called a Christmas truce, and in that peace and quiet, calm and bright of the Christmas truce, could hear each other singing Silent Night, each in their own language. Such a beautiful story. And so that's the direction I went when I asked myself about context, because I think we're living in a time where many of us are hyper vigilant, hyper aware of the divisions that exist within our world, within our country, within our churches, even within our families. And so to remember that there is a way to peace, that the Prince of Peace came to help us to understand each other, to find those times where we can listen to one another, even if we don't agree. We can listen and we can find some calm and bright, peace and light in the season. And so that's the context that I went for this year as I designed worship for the Advent Christmas season. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. But for you, you're going to ask yourself, what is the most important thing for us to address? Maybe that is what I just described was something that would resonate with you, and maybe something else. So as we go along in this webinar, and I tell you about the theology of the season, a little bit about the history, keep thinking about what is it for you, for your context, that would be the most important message to offer. So the second C in our tips for an good season is communication. Effective communication means that we ask ourselves the question, how will we engage everyone in some way in a sensory-rich expression? Now, sensory-rich expression is something that I teach in the Worship Design Studio all the time. Those of you who've studied with me know this. Those of you who read my book, Think Like a Filmmaker, know that what I understand about the way that we learn and remember is that we don't all do it the same. We don't all learn and remember, take in information in the same way. And so what we need are many different ways to bring the message. So I use Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences theory to talk about how each of us is wired in our brains in different ways. And the message is only going to come to us, be communicated effectively, most effectively, if we are looking at different ways to bring the message. So in our Calm and Bright series that we're celebrating 200 years of Silent Night, let me just give you an example of how that happens. When I design worship, I come up with what I call an anchor image, a visual that is going to, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so for this series, the light or the star is going to be the anchor image, the color palette, golds, blues, and purples, and silvers. those shining things, right? So the message is to bring the light into the world, how that light shone into the world, both metaphorically and literally in that star shining bright, guiding people to this great good news. So that anchor image is a star, and we have created many different ways that folks who are doing this series will create stars with lights in them. There's so many out there these days. Maybe the Advent wreath is made up of candles that are in star candle holders. So many different ways that star will show up. We create a Pinterest page that has all kinds of things in it, all kinds of ideas. So we give you a ton of ideas, and of course, you'll come up with your own. But this is what I'm talking about, friends, no matter what series you do, whether it's our Calm and Bright or one of our other ones or your own. One of the very first things to do is to find a good anchor image, and then that will give you all sorts of ideas of ways to bring in all of the worship arts, all of the senses. We've got other ways that people can do the star kind of thing to bring in different generations. So I love this picture that Jenna, my project manager, found. Don't you love it, the way these people are making a star with their fingers? How fun is that? You could get your youth involved in taking pictures of the congregation. Some youth would love to lay down on the ground, and take a shot up through these people's fingers. And you could post those all over social media, #BeAStar. One of the things I love about this star image is that we live in such a celebrity culture, and we're dealing with that in a intense way right now, right? Our obsession with celebrity and the trouble that gets us into in some ways. And so Be a Star can be reframed. How are we a star? It's not about celebrity status. It's about the light we bring into the world. So #BeAStar, #Keep Calm and Shine On, #Calm and Bright could be all kinds of ways, but getting people involved in that social media, call it evangelism, call it publicity, call it getting the message out, whatever you want to, but that's a really fun thing. And Shelley Walters, another one of my associates, came up with a wonderful idea of an at-home Advent wreath with battery-operated tea lights and star cutouts that families can do during the week. And she has created a whole way of drawing in some of the liturgical pieces, some of the prayer responses that we have on for Sunday mornings, drawing that into during the week, because we wanted this series to be really generational, multi-generational friendly. And so the responses in the worship itself are rhyming and simple, so that children over time, because they repeat, will be able to memorize and learn them and repeat them back, especially if they're doing it at home during the week. So this is what I mean by how do we get more people involved in the communication of the message, not just on Sunday morning, but also in other places in their lives and other times during the week. This is what reinforces the message and gets the message out beyond the time and place of worship. Not only that, one of the things that I think it makes a really meaningful and memorable season is how we address that message in small groups. So all of our fully scripted series in the Worship Design Studio, we create small group resources to go with it, or we connect it with an already existing book, that kind of thing. And this season, we decided instead of a book study, we would have small groups get together and do activities of putting mission kits together. And we give lots of ideas, hospital care kits. People are in the hospital over the Advent season, Christmas season, cancer care kits, folks who are sitting and getting treatments, first responder care packages to take to firehouses and that kind of thing over the season. Really wonderful way to get people involved. Now, one of the things that we'll see in just a moment is that these care packages then get brought to the worship, either in a representative way or all of them, and so that we see the connection between our worship and mission. So this, I'm just using this as an example of what we've done for the Calm and Bright series, but the point is, no matter what series you do, if you're creating your own, to find a way to connect mission and connect what we do on Sunday morning. That also ups the communication of the message. So we've had context, we've had communication in two ways to have an good season. All right, third and last C is continuity. how will we create anticipation and familiarity while offering something unique? This is the balancing act, isn't it? This is the balancing act. So we want to do something that's unique, that wakes us up to the story yet again, but we also want to have that familiarity. We want folks to feel like, this is my church, this is my connection, and even more than that, after the first Sunday, thinking, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. I want so-and-so to come and experience this. I want to invite them. And you want some continuity from Sunday to Sunday so that when you do invite somebody the next Sunday, it's as wonderful as it was the first Sunday. So those of you who study with me know that I teach about something called threads. And threads are those things that repeat throughout the season, that give the season its flavor. It might be a unique way of opening the service. It might be a unique way of praying during the service. It might be a thread song, something that repeats like a theme song. So let me just give you an example. In our Calm and Bright series, what I call the threshold moment is that movement from the ordinary and sort of the welcome and announcement-y time into introducing the theme, introducing the spiritual journey that we're about to go on, and getting ourselves immersed in the message and the spiritual journey. So at the beginning of every service during the Advent series for Calm and Bright, there's the welcome and announcements, and then I can imagine, if you have a space where you can dim the lights a little bit, I can see the lights dimming just a little bit. And then in the script, the pastor says, I invite you to deep breath. Right away, that's a threshold, right? That letting go. And then the pastor says, imagine that what is above you is a starlit night. And then some handbells or chimes, you can even use little children's handbells, begin to ring. It's the sonic representation of twinkling stars, right? Bing, 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 right? And then what you say is, and in this moment, all is calm, all is bright. Now, I just led a retreat, a worship planning retreat. And because we just created this, my music collaborator, Chuck Bell, and I, we tried this out for the first time. And oh my gosh, it was so magical. But it also gave us that sense of listen with a new way of listening, and with intention, alertness, right? Rather than let us stand for our call to worship, right? So, and then we created this little song that's going to be a theme thread song at the beginning. It was the night when peace was born, and then people just sing that silent night, and just as now the world was torn, holy night. We're not going to sing the whole song because we want to wait for Christmas Eve, but we're going to get that just a little teaser, right? So that opening will be the same for all of the Sundays. That's the continuity part, right? So you know that's going to, but the little thing that will change, it was the night when hope was born, when love was born, when joy was born, right? So as we go through peace, love, hope, joy. So there's a little tweaking, but there's something that creates continuity. That's what I mean by continuity, because then, two times, you repeat it, once, we have 2 Sundays, and it feels like ritual then. It feels familiar. And that's the beauty of doing a series. It helps you have both the unique and also the familiar at the same time. So as I said, these mission kits for this series are going to get processed up, and the manger is going to be present the whole time, the whole Advent, so that bringing of the gifts, it kind of forecasts the story of the wise people bringing their gifts, right? But we keep bringing these gifts of these mission kits that we put together week by week by these small groups, and that's part of the ritual as well. So these things that repeat, that offer continuity. During prayer, we're going to light candles in prayer stations, on tables. And this is so we can have that candle lighting sense without actually doing the Advent or sorry, the Christmas Eve candle lighting. We want to save that for Christmas Eve, right? But we still get to light candles every Sunday as part of that. So finding those things that help you get familiar, are repeated patterns that bring continuity. So that's my 3 C's for an good, meaningful, and memorable Advent Christmas season: context, communication, and continuity, with those examples from our newest series.